Good morning, world. This is John Kovach Jr., the founder of the Champion Circle Networking Association and host of the Circle of Knowledge podcast. We're back with another great session, and I can't wait to introduce our individual, the keynote speaker of today, and the awesome opportunity that we have to learn from him. Again, guys, I love this show, but the reason why I love this show is because selfishly, I get to connect with amazing human beings from all over the world. And as a result, I get to ask questions. I got to be the front row to learning and to gaining and obtaining the knowledge. And I just want to share something that I probably haven't shared on the show before, which is there's obviously a structure. There's obviously a way that we interview and we lead this information to give it to you, our listeners. And one of the things that we do is not only do we ask these individuals who come on our show to share some nuggets of knowledge. I call them the golden nuggets of knowledge. And when we ask them to share these nuggets of knowledge, we get to learn, we get to jot those things down, we get to obtain and bask in it and soak them in. But then what we do in our mastermind groups is with that knowledge, what are you going to do now? A common question we ask is, what do you feel inspired to do as a result of the information you've received today? And that is really what I'm trying to learn. Is I get to learn from these amazing human beings. And I have learned from some really cool people, from the amazing Eric Swanson to the wonderful Miss Dee Dee Wong, and so many more amazing speakers and teachers and mentors, millionaires, and so forth. Business entrepreneurs. It has been an incredible journey, and I am so grateful for it. And before I introduce today's guest, I just wanted to give you guys a few more updates on some really cool things. Number one is, you see it over my shoulder if you're watching the live feed, and if you're listening in, our book, The 13 Steps to Riches, based on the principles of Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, it is on the shelves at regular retailers. It is also found internationally through Barnes and Noble. Well, not Barnes and Noble, but whatever Barnes and Noble you have in your country. I don't know what that is. I'll do my research on that. But we also have it available on Amazon anywhere. We just got word that we are selling them off the shelves in Australia, and we've got a few authors contributing over there in the UK that have been helping out as well. Pretty amazing. But in my hands right here, you can probably hear that, is the official hard copy of our book. This is volume 1 out of 13. And this is featuring NASA's performance coach, Dennis Waitley, and obviously Mr. Awesome himself, Eric Swanson. It's so cool to hold a physical copy of our hardcover, which is now available online for everybody. All right, enough of that, because I know we talk about it every single show, but I want to introduce to you guys a really amazing human being. Somebody who I'm getting to know, and for the first time today, I've had the opportunity to connect with. This individual is Jeff Smith. Jeff Smith is affectionately known as the KPI Guy. And for all of my listeners, you are conditioned. You know what KPIs mean. Key performance indicators. He's written 7 international #1 bestsellers. Man, I can't keep up with this guy. He's on fire. He's got some really great stuff. Selling books on KPI and business management. Man, there's so much to share here. But throughout his career, he's worked with and trusted by the royal families in the United Kingdom. He's been part of he's been trusted by governments and different countries and senior executives in the largest companies in the world. This is going to be a treat. You have the opportunity of listening from Jeff. And Jeff is going to teach us a few of his golden nuggets of knowledge and to share with you some opportunities that are going to help you develop yourself as a result of growing and developing your businesses. So without any further ado, let me bring to the stage my new friend and awesome individual, Mr. Jeff Smith. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Hey, John, thank you for such a wonderful, wonderful introduction. I feel truly blessed to be here on the front row with you today.
Thank you. And I love that you said that, because it really does. It feels like an amazing auditorium of awesome where we get to learn and grow and so forth. And you and I were just talking in the green room backstage where you were telling me that you actually did what Napoleon Hill did in Think and Grow Rich at a young age, and you didn't even pick up the book or know anything about Napoleon until later in your life. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I think
Yeah.
that's super awesome.
It's a fascinating story. Of course, if I'd have known about Napoleon Hill, it would have accelerated my journey. But for me, I think we travel journeys for a reason. I don't know why, but when I look at my life, I'm a product of the experiences, of course, as is everyone. And I've done pretty well, okay. But looking back at my life, if I was gifted it early on, I don't think I would be where I am today. It's that journey that's made the difference. It's the doing, not the knowing or the gifting that really makes a difference. But hey, John, here's what happened. High school, I failed maths, English. And then I'm now on record as the most successful author in history. I mean, how does that work on a book about mathematics? It's fascinating. Well, I'll share with you how it worked. As a youngster, I'm about 8 or 9 years old. My dad wanted to start to learn to play keyboards, so he did. And we had what was called an organ in those days, and the teacher used to come around and sit with my dad, and I used to sit on the stairs and watch. So the teacher would go, the music teacher would leave, and then I would go down, and then I would play because I'd been watching and listening. And I'm a kid, so I did better than my dad. So after a few weeks, my dad said, "You carry on, and then you can teach me."
Wow.
Okay. So I carried on playing keyboards. Loved it, didn't want to do anything else. And I mean anything else. Nothing else interested me. And that's why I did not do well at school. I'm thinking, Henry VIII was the King of England in 14. What? Why do I want to know that? All I want to do is just play, So I didn't do well with math and English and things. It wasn't that I was stupid. It's just that I just wasn't interested. I didn't make the connection with anything. So what happened after that? I became a professional musician. And here's where my story of riches began, or I should say my story of how successful people become successful. Because what happened, I became a professional musician. I was 18. So by day, I used to work in a store at the city centre and sell them. And then by night, I used to work in nightclubs and back cabaret. In those days, no such thing as backing tracks. CD wasn't invented. It was, you needed live music. That was me. And that was what I enjoyed. So during one day, it was a Thursday. I remember this so well. I was working in the store and this guy pulls up outside. Now, I need to tell you at this stage, as a child, I had wonderful parents, extremely loving. I won't say we were poor because I think that's a state of mind. We were broke. That's a state of pocket, right? So we lived in a state house, paid rent, could not afford to buy this house. Now, let me put this into context. The price of the house was $2,000, thereabouts. So remember that $2,000. We could not afford it. We paid rent on it. A guy pulls up outside the store in a black Porsche 911 Targa with the roof off. The exhaust was roaring, I thought, wow, that is one beautiful car. The guy gets out of the car. He looks through the window at me and walks into my store. I think, oh, wow. So he comes in and he said, "I want to buy the best piece of equipment you have. What can you show me?" So this was just the beginning, the very beginning of digitalization with musical instruments. And this keyboard had recorded digitally a trumpet. And you could touch the keyboard and you can hear a trumpet, not what it used to be. The price of this, $4,000. Wow. It was double double the price of the house that we were living in that we could not afford. So this guy gets out of his 911, which is like, and he wants to buy this. Wow. So I play for him all the music that he liked. He decides to buy it. And this is a Thursday. So he said, Jeff, I have a special request. I said, sure. What's your request? And he said, I'd like you to deliver it for me on Monday evening to my home. But I want you to play for me. I want you to make sure all the acoustics are right, and which is not an unusual request for pieces of equipment, instruments at that price range. So I said, sure, no problem. We also have one request also. And he said, sure, what's that? And I said, we have to have cleared funds before we can deliver. He said, oh, that's no problem. It's Thursday now, right? I'll call in on Saturday. You'll have payment in full, and then you can deliver on Monday. And I said, okay, that's great. Now, John, the most money I'd ever seen up to this point was about $200. You know, I was just not in an arena where money was flowing anywhere. Saturday comes, and I hear, oh, this Porsche 911 comes again. He walks in the door. I'll call him Dave because that's his name. So I said, hey, Dave, come on in. And he's got a plastic supermarket shopping bag. He holds it, he tips it up and tips out $4,000 in folding money. Most I'd seen is $200. So, wow. Okay. So we sort that out. Great, Dave, I'll see you on Monday. So we go to his house. I called a friend of mine, actually, same age as me. And I told him the story. And I said, I need to deliver, and it's huge. I need to deliver this keyboard. And can you give me a hand? Maybe you'll have 2 daughters. So my buddy said, yeah, I'll come. It's no problem. It's no problem at all. So we load Monday evening comes after work. We load the instrument, drive to this guy's property, and this is 1978, John, before you were born, right? So he'd got a video camera on his wall and electric gates. This is like James Bond's to me. It was like, wow. So I press this button and his voice comes over. These electric gates open. We travel in our station wagon down the driveway, and I can hear the tires on the gravel crunching as we're going along. At the end of this driveway, there's this huge house, and the doorway's arched, and it's double oak doors. They're huge. And he opens these doors and he said, hey guys, how you doing? Bring the keyboard through to the east wing. I mean, this house was U-shaped. It was huge. And the thing I remember, I put my foot inside these oak doors and my foot just sank into this carpet. And that never happened to me before. It's like, wow. And it was like walking on air. It was amazing. So we set up this instrument for him. I played for him. One little bit of bad news. He didn't have any daughters. But, you know, I could forgive him for that one. So we set it up. We came away. I then drove home. And I remember, and I can remember it so vividly now, the weak structure of our front door. I put the key in the lock, and then I put my foot inside the door, and the carpet there's no pile on the carpet. And it was this point I thought, you know, my dad is a really clever guy. He was the manager of the largest machine shop in Europe. He's built bridges all over the world. You know, he's a real clever guy. And then there's this guy who's got this huge, huge house, Porsche 911, and bought the best instrument there is to buy. And he was real old, John. He was about 40. so, so this question came to me. I thought, well, here's my dad. He's not a stupid guy. He works hard. He's a very clever guy. He's had a hand in the Thames Barrier, bridges over the Bosphorus, a couple of bridges in the US as well. And we're broke. And then this other guy, he's got wealth that I just cannot imagine. What's the difference? What is it that makes successful people successful? That was the burning question for me. Now, at that age, my question quite specifically was, what makes a millionaire a millionaire? How does a millionaire become a millionaire? And so, because I was working in the music industry, I was exposed to lots of famous people, lots of very successful people, and got connected quite frequently to millionaires. So I'm thinking, I need to find out, I want to find out, how does a millionaire become a millionaire? And over the next few years, I interviewed 325 millionaires. What's fascinating with the journey was that I then got closer to understanding what success is. I originally thought it was money. It isn't money, no. So my study then shifted from how does a millionaire become a millionaire? And it shifted to how do successful people become successful? And I studied lots of business people, and I formed an interest in who I call the top achievers. These are the top 20% of people in the world. And then I looked at the top 20% of the 20% in different industries. So it's like the top 4%. And what I found out, what I discovered, they all do 11 things in common.
Wow.
Yeah. So I thought, if I am able to apply these 11 things to my life, then maybe I can be successful too. Yeah, and here we are. A guy who failed at school becomes the most successful author in history on a book about mathematics. John, I kid you not, it works. So that was a very long answer, but does it answer your question?
It absolutely answers my question, and it actually answers the question I was going to ask, which was, tell me about yourself. And I love this because, man, Jeff, this is incredible. You are a master storyteller, and thank you for walking us through that example of your past, your youth, and where it's taken you. I'm so excited to learn more. And out of curiosity, just a question shoot from the hip here is that are you able to share a few of the famous people you've been able to work with or have met as a process of being in the music industry? And it's okay if you.
I can share some of them. I'm English, so some of them the American audience would not know. But a couple you would know would be the Prime Minister of the time, Margaret Thatcher. Very nice lady. Her successor, who was John Major, he was an interesting guy because he was fascinating. And why I really wanted to chat and find out about him was that his father was a juggler in the circus. So a circus performer's son becomes a prime minister of England, wow. Great Britain, United Kingdom. It's fascinating. And Margaret Thatcher's father was a greengrocer, which is a tiny store in a small town in Grantham. You know, and it's how do these people go from humble and ordinary beginnings to achieve extraordinary things in life? So that's what fascinated me in the whole journey. Famous hypnotist, Paul McKenna. You heard of him?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy. So I spent some time with him, and I got some clarity from him kindly about the subconscious mind and what that does and how that affects success. So that was really interesting. A comedian called Lenny Henry. Would you have heard of him?
No.
So he's very, very famous guy, and does lots of charity work now, which I absolutely applaud, and raises millions and millions and millions for people all around the world, not just the UK. So yeah, there you go. There's a couple to
That's
start you off
amazing.
with.
Yeah, that's great. And I know there's plenty more where that came from, but life, you can't go through life unscathed. You meet people, you learn things, and you have the lessons of a lifetime. And I absolutely love learning from those who have gone and found out. I am literally shaking with excitement, dying to know what are the 11 things that millionaires do. And I guess I'm going to have to pick up your book, and I'm sure you'll share with us some of the thoughts. And I am really excited. But leading into who you are today, give us a little bit of insight on what you do, what you teach. Obviously, you have one of the most successful book careers, and let's talk a little bit more about that. But tell us more about what's Jeff doing right now, and what's the current mission on helping people.
Okay, so I was a professional musician. I did pretty well, but then music was no longer a passion. It became a job. I fell out of love with it. One of the things I fell out of love with, it failed to be music to me anymore. It just became a mathematical puzzle, because
Oh,
music is mathematics. I mean, I do like mathematics now, unlike when I was a youngster. But it was just like, oh, here's a complicated piece of music, and I viewed it, here's just another Rubik cube to solve. And I just fell out of love with music. The other thing about that, when you're entertaining people, you're working and giving people a good time, but you don't have the good time yourself. Yeah, you enjoy playing, of course. But I remember I'd be 19, 20 years old, and my buddy would call me, hey, Jeff, you know that girl you like? We're going to the party, and she's asking if you're coming to the party. And whoa, I'm 19, 20 years old. I think, hell yeah. But no, I have to play the gig tonight to keep people happy, And I thought, I really don't want to do this for the rest of my life. It's very antisocial. And I'm sure it's exactly the same for a chef. The working hours of a chef. So if there's any chefs out there, wow, I applaud you. But so I decided this is not for me. I did not know what I wanted to do. Life purpose, I wasn't really tuned into stuff like that at that age. So my dad said, okay, you quit music, that's okay, but you need to get up off your ass and work. You need to get a job, right? So I'd earned a lot of money at this stage, and I didn't need to get a job, but I had to get a job. I thought, I don't know what I want to do. I just need some time to let my head sort itself out. So I got a job as a car salesman at a local dealership selling Volkswagen. I did really well. After a couple of years, I got promoted to sales manager. After a couple of years, I got promoted to general manager. After another couple of years, I was a director on the board and running 10 dealerships, all franchise dealerships. And I was loving it and enjoying it. Here's an interesting one now. One of the sales managers came to me one day, and I was in one of these 10 dealerships. I was having a cup of coffee, and we were not far away from closing the store that day. And he said, Jeff, what would you do if you won $1 million? And I said, right, I'm not going to give the default easy answer, because the default easy answer is, that black Porsche 911 Targa? Yeah, I want one. Yeah, that big, nice U-shaped house? Yeah, I want one. The best keyboard that exists? Yeah, I want one. I'm not going to answer that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to think about it overnight. I'll come back here tomorrow, and I want you to think about the same. What would you do with $1 million? So I really gave it some thought, John. So I went back next day, got the coffees in, and all the guys came round. I said, "Oh yeah, I want to hear what you're going to say here, Jeff. What are you going to do with your $1 million?" So we're sitting around having a laugh and a joke, and I said to this first guy, "So have you written down what you would do? Because you can't change your mind and adopt mine." And he said, "No, that's okay. I have it written down. Here we go." So he said, "You go first." I said, "Okay, here's what I would do. What I like most of all is teaching people, developing people, and helping them in their chosen route." So because there were 10 dealerships there, you got 10 service managers, 10 parts managers, 10 sales managers, 10 general managers. And my role, the part I enjoyed most about my role was developing them to be better within their job role, to understand their business so they could win more customers, make more profits, enhance customer satisfaction. How do you do that whilst fulfilling your job role, performing and developing to be a better leader? That's what I enjoy most. So I don't want to deal with bank managers anymore. I don't want all the corporate stuff anymore. What I really want to do is to teach people how they can have a better version of their life, enhancing their career, enhancing their business. So that's what I'd really love to do. And everyone was quiet. And whilst I was explaining this, I was kind of lost in this vision of this dream I was talking about. So yeah, that's what I'd do with my $1 million. And then he said to me, "Jeff," yeah, he said, "you don't need $1 million to do that." And I thought, And then it hit me. I think this is really what I want to do. This is my purpose, if you will. So I quit. Not right there and then, but I went home to my wife and I said, we had this conversation over the past couple of days. What I'd really like to do is to teach and share knowledge. And I know people wanted it because I was one of the real high flyers, top performers in the UK. I was known because of the stuff we'd achieved. So I said, I want to share with other people what I found out about life, what I found out about success, and how to make businesses better. And she said, okay, if anyone can do it, you can do it. I said, okay. So I set up my own company then.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't know what would happen or anything like that. And I thought everyone was using key performance indicators. They were not. Yeah, they had a few. You would hear the term KPI, but here's the thing. They were using ones that people had advised them to use, not necessarily the ones that were right for their goals and objectives. And that's a whole world of difference. That's like being in Colorado, having a map to Atlanta, and you want to go to New York. You know, you need to have the right roadmap in place if you're going to achieve anything. So I thought, I'm a charitable guy. I've done well in life. It's now my turn to give something back. And the way I decided to do that was to write a book about key performance indicators and how to use them, particularly for the automotive industry. So if you're selling anything, a service department, a parts department, a body shop, general management, the whole thing. And nothing existed. Nothing did. So I'm thinking, I'm going to write the book to help people who follow in my path so they can be helped. Now, I was only thinking of England at that time. And I thought the market for this book is probably around 5,000. If I can get 20% of them, to buy the book, say 1,000, that would be a nice contribution from me, and it's my way of saying thank you to the universe, and here's my way of giving back. Before the book went to print, bear in mind my target was 1,000. Before it went to print, I'd already sold and been paid for 500 copies.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a fascinating story about how that happened as well. So the book came along. I thought, great. And then I thought, okay, what should I do now? One of the reasons I wrote the book, John, was because I've been blessed with this gift. It's understanding how things work through the use of key performance indicators. I don't have to think about it. I'm just blessed. So it was a burden, if you will, for me. I feel it a burden that I needed to share this information. So I wrote the book, and I don't like writing books. That's a fascinating thing about purpose as well. So I wrote the book, it was published, and then I didn't do any marketing or anything, and I still don't. It just grows of its own organic growth. After a few years, I had a phone call one day, and this guy said, "Hey, Jeff." I said, "Hi." He said, "I'm Alex." And I said, "Hey, Alex, how you doing? What can I do for you?" And he said, "I've got the second best-selling book in the world on key performance indicators. And I'm the editing director of Wiley Publications. We're the largest publisher in the world on books of financial matters. And we've got the number 2 best-selling book in the world." And I'm thinking, that's a strange thing to say, right? I wonder what his angle is. So my question naturally is, well, who's number 1? And he said, "You're kidding me, right?" And I said, "No." He said, "It's you. You're everywhere." And I said, "Well, I wouldn't know that because I'm self-published. I didn't use a publisher." And he said, "That's even worse." He said, "We're the biggest publisher in the world, and here you are. Let me tell you the stats. We've got number 2, number 3, number 4, and your book on its own outsells the top 10 combined. That's how far ahead you are." I'm like, wow, that's fascinating. So from there, I continued to do training. The book went all over the world, so I was getting calls then from all over the world. So I wasn't working in the UK too often then. So I've been in 76 countries now. So I'm truly blessed. Hundreds of cities, touched the lives of millions. And it's just an extremely privileged place to be. So I'm just packing my case now. I'm off to speak at a conference in Dubai. So this is why I'm known as the KPI guy, because of the books and stuff like that. So to answer your question, what do? I speak at conferences, I run training courses, and I also help people out virtually. So if anybody has a question, they can connect with me here, whether it be Zoom, Teams, or whatever, here at the Center of Excellence, and I help you out that way in lots of different ways. And I'm writing I'm actually writing 4 books at the same time, which is
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's quite a challenge. The reason for me doing 4 at the same time, when I write a book, it takes me about 1 year. And when I finish the book, when I get to the end, I'm a different person to when I started. When you write a book, you're much more knowledgeable. I don't know where the stuff comes from. I'll say the universe. So you could quite easily go back to the beginning of the book and write it better. That's a real serious temptation. And I have to chain myself down and say, no, you have to let let your baby go. You have to let it go. And then if you want to continue writing, just do another one. So I'm writing these 4 books at the same time because I want them written to be of the same mindset. Not the growth. The person who has the 4th book, yeah, shouldn't be a different person to the one who wrote the first book. Does that make sense? Yeah,
Yes.
so I'm writing 4 together to make sure each component part is the same. It's not me growing as a person through that. So what am I doing? I speak at conferences. I run training courses all over the world. I attend company meetings via Zoom, give a keynote speech, talk about KPI, business development, things like that. And I'm still writing. So my wife said, when are you going to retire? And I think, I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon. In fact, I retired. I did retire. I retired in 2008. John, it lasted 2 days. we went on vacation. I'm lying on the sunbed. We retired. That was it. And I'm thinking, what do I do now? This is nice for a vacation, but is this what I want for the rest of my life? No. So on day 2, I sat bolt upright and I said to my wife, I have an idea. She said, oh no. She said, go on, what's your idea? I said, I'm not going to retire. I'm going to semi-retire. And I wasn't speaking at conferences then. I was just doing training. So I said, I'm just going to speak at conferences. So it'll be far fewer engagements than training, but it'll be a higher ticket price. Okay, she said, let's just see how that works out. So it worked out very well indeed. And that's what I love to do. I love speaking at conferences.
That's amazing. And thank you for that. Those really great stories. I'm amazed. It's been a world of experience and growth and discovery, and I'm just thrilled. And it's so, I guess, a good word to use would be surprising to find out through top business book publishers and so forth that you were number 1. That's really great. What is the title of your book? That way I can send people your way. Okay.
I'll tell another story now.
Okay.
Just how the title of the book came to be. Because one of the things that sells a book is its title, right? You need a real great, sexy title for it to leap off the shelf, for people to say, yeah, I want that book. So I thought of some awesome titles. And I'd written my goal, and I started sharing my goal with people who mattered to me, and then icons in industry. And I said, hey, I'm writing this book. And they go, oh, great. What's it about? Then I'd start to explain it. And they said, oh, right. That will be a KPI book then. And I said, yeah. And everyone I spoke to was saying the same thing. Oh, yeah, that'll be a KPI book then. So guess what I called the book?
The KPI
book. Yeah. I thought, someone somewhere is telling me something. You have a great title on yours, 13 Steps to Riches, which we can talk about in a moment if we can. So I had things like how to make more profit and keep it, how to make more profit in less time, how to grow your business, all this stuff. I had lots of different titles. And everybody was just saying this is a KPI book. So, and I'm affectionately known as the KPI guy. So, and again, I didn't make that up. Somebody else made that up. So I think you just have to listen to your potential buyers, understand where their head is, and understand their perception of you, and take it. not necessarily what you'd like it to be. So fascinating stuff. So it's called the KPI book. So that's the one that has dominated the automotive industry. So Porsche, Ferrari, Mercedes, everybody has it.
Wow.
Across the world, it's the standard for everyone. Every car dealerships, and even in the USA too.
Yeah,
So,
I'm definitely going to pick up a copy as a previous accountability coach and athlete. Key performance indicators are a huge translation of progress, and so I'm going to recommend it to my audience, as well as I'm going to go pick up a copy myself. Transitioning here just for last few portions of our podcast, I'd love to ask you, Jeff. You've shared with us already a wealth of knowledge, and I mean that. But I wanted to ask you, what is, and this is the opportunity to pour into us. What knowledge would you like to share with our audience? And as a result of that knowledge, what do you challenge that we take action on? And I'll give you the floor.
Okay. I'm going to give or impart two pieces of knowledge. I found 11 steps that all successful people have in common. Step one is the most important, and I would say 98% of people can't do it. Step one is, what do you want? To know what you want is so important. But what successful people do, they know what they want with absolute clarity. Now, let me put that into context. For somebody who doesn't understand this kind of stuff about success and business growth and entrepreneurship and things like that, if you don't know what you want, any road will take you there. And you have to be specific. You can't be generic. For instance, I'll ask someone, what do you want? A typical answer will be, yeah, more money. So I put my hand in my pocket. I give them $1 bill. They say, no, I want more than that. And I said, but you didn't say that, did you? You only said you want more money, and you now have more money. Your goal has now been fulfilled. So successful people know what they want with absolute clarity, and they write it down with absolute clarity. And I'd say, above all, that's the biggest difference between people who are successful and people who are not. Because if you imagine, I don't want to get into religion or anything, but let's say the deliverer of success is the universe. And the universe already has what you want. And the universe can give it to you. All you have to do is ask for it. Now, let me put this into context again. I was talking to a lady a few weeks ago, and she said, Jeff, I want to talk to you about book publishing. How do you be so successful? How do you get to dominate what you've done? It's incredible. I'd love to do the same. Can you help me with a book? And I said, sure, I can help you with a book. Tell me more why you want my help with your book. What do you want from me? And she said, well, I'm okay at writing the book itself. She said, but actually, this is my second book. I've already written a book. I went, oh, great. So how can I help you then? What do you expect to be different? And here's the thing about being specific. She said, I already have a book. The problem is they're all in my garage. I haven't sold any. So I want to talk to you about how you've sold so many books. Here's the point. So I said, can you share with me your goal? And I know what your goal is, or was. I would say that your goal was you want to write a book. She said, yeah. And I said, well, you got what you wanted. The universe delivered. You have written a book. That's what you asked for. That's what you got. Perhaps your goal ought to have been, I want to share my knowledge with people who are interested in this field so they can accelerate their own development. And my book is merely a conduit to help them to do that. She started crying. She put her head down, wiping her eyes. She said, I get it now. Nobody ever told me this before. All the books on success, all the mentors, I've read every book there is. Nobody's come close to explaining this so well. So let me repeat and paraphrase what I'm saying. If you're an entrepreneur, you have to know what you want. So if you want to write a book, that's not what you really want. It's what the book does for you. So you have to be very, very specific about what you want. Most people can't do it. Talk to someone who understands this stuff to help you, to give you some clarity on it. Because if you don't ask for it, the answer is always no. And the universe is here waiting to give it to you. But you have to ask, and you have to be very specific, and that's so important. Here's the second point. In studying successful people, does the way they think make a difference to their lives? Yeah. There's a difference between positive and negative. And the subconscious mind cannot accept a negative context. Now, I don't mean here positive and negative in Yahoo and that kind of thing. This is what I mean. When you think of something, for instance, if I say to you now, do not think of a red car. You will think of a red car, even though I've asked you not to. And that's because the mind cannot accept the negative. Why? And Google works exactly the same way as your mind. You can test it. If you type into Google, do not show me a red car, what will come up in your search is a page full of red cars. Why? Because Google, just like your subconscious, does not have the ability to come back to you and question you. It doesn't have the ability to say, okay, you don't want a red car, so what do you want instead? It doesn't have that ability. So if you're thinking, do not show me a red car, do not think about the red car, the only way your brain can construct that is to take out the negative and give you what you're left with, which is a red car. Now, the reason why people fail in many areas is because they think about what they don't want. Now, bear in mind, the universe can give you what you're thinking of, whether you want it or not. And it doesn't have the ability, just like your subconscious, just like Google, it doesn't have the ability to say, well, if you don't want that, what do you want instead? So the two things, know what you want and think about what you want and not about what you don't want, because you will become what you think about, whether you want it or whether you don't. So in terms of growing your business, be totally focused on what you want. But to do that, you have to do step one, which is to be very, very clear on what you want and to write it down.
Wow. Taking furious notes. That is super powerful. And I think that sums it all up, right? The knowledge we need is to get clear on what you want. And then the action to take is to, well, you said it yourself, that this is what successful people do. They know what they want and clearly write it down. And that is a great step in the process of learning more. And I'm sure that is the step that puts them over the edge into rolling into success and working on themselves. I know there's so much more to that, but with that being said, Jeff, I appreciate everything you've shared on the show, and I'd love to have
My
you back
pleasure.
if you would. I know that we just covered the surface, and with the amazing storytelling, I know that my audience really wants to get to know you. You guys can get to know Jeff by going to his website, jeff-smith.com. And if you want to contact him or get to know him or just connect a little bit more, you can go to /chat and connect with him there. But I really am grateful for what you've shared and what you've taught my audience. And thank you for letting me be the front row seat to this. And I'd like to know if you have any last parting words before, but again, I do want to invite you back to the podcast so that we could get even more, get a little bit deeper. And by then
Sure.
I'll have a copy of your book and I'll have read it and we can talk some more about KPI.
Sure. Well, by another token, I want to interview you also because there's lots in there I find fascinating. So next time I'll be the host, but I shall step off the front row and leave you with this little gem. We live in a world where everything is being measured. You know that. Take care to measure the right things in the right way. Challenge the rules of conventional wisdom. Think bigger about your business and think bigger about your life.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Mr. Jeff Smith. Jeff, thank you so much. This has been another exciting episode of the Circle of Knowledge podcast. I look forward to seeing you guys next time.